Okay, so thanks for hanging around. We're back with Dr. Dave Aitken of TonalSpine Chiropractic here in Chattanooga. So we've kind of given people this visual of imagining themselves or someone they know and love who perhaps is presenting that outward sign of a more internal, complex situation, right?
That's right.
So they come to you at TonalSpine, whether they're a child or an adult. And what does your intake look like? What first happens?
Yeah, so it's really important to first establish whether or not I'm the right person to help somebody out. So I always start off with a consultation that is complimentary. And that's really to make sure that we are 100% in alignment, that the person sitting in front of me can really benefit from what it is that I offer. And if not, I really want to help them get to another provider in town that can help them with that. Once we establish that somebody is in the right place, that I really feel like this would help them, their nervous system, their life, what we do is we scan the nervous system. We use objective means of doing this, a computerized neurological assessment. And what we do is we scan the nerve roots coming out of the spine. We look at the energy usage of the muscles in the back, which is an indicator of how much forward pressure is actually happening in the spine. We also look at heart rate variability, which measures the balance in the autonomic nervous system, which, not to get too sciencey, but essentially that's the balance of your fight and flight system and the healing, the rest and digest system, and how well that's optimized.
Okay.
So once we get that established, we get them on the table, I check their spine, and if it all looks like essentially what's happening is their nervous system is in a state of overwhelm, especially chronic overwhelm, then it's time to get started.
Okay, so if that is the case, this chronic overwhelm,
Yes.
you mentioned the fight or flight and then the rest and whatever.
Digest.
Digest. So could that be why some people, when they're under a lot of stress, they're not sleeping?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, the nervous system has essentially a prioritizational system. Basic function and safety and survival are number one. But safety and survival is actually ahead of health. So if you can't make it beyond the moment, your body's not going to develop or allocate those resources towards the healing processes. And so what ends up happening is when we're on this chronic, low-level survival response, which is actually very common today, and it's essentially what we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is that the body does not allocate the proper amount of resources for the normal functions. So what people experience is a very systemic breakdown of little things that just should work, like digestion, sleep, anxiety is also a product of this.
So, I mean, I'm going to always go to the kids because that's just the mom and me. But
Sure,
it could be that it could be that you've recently lost a spouse or gone through a divorce, something that's been a real traumatic situation in your life, and some time goes by and you deal, and then you learn how to deal with it in new ways, but the initial trauma, if you will, is still there. It's like sedimental layers that get built up.
Yes.
Is that fair? So
That's
when
very
people
fair.
come to you, are you kind of peeling back that onion to get to the original trauma and help the body find that point?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. See, you know, what healing's really all about is not helping the symptom or the pain go away. It's really getting to the core and the heart of why your system's doing what it's doing. And so what we're looking at is, it's really helpful to look at the nervous system as not broken or doing anything we're talking about is not your nervous system doing something wrong or being dysfunctional. It is doing everything it can and everything we asked of it to help us survive and be in the world. It's just that at some point those strategies outweigh or outlive their usefulness.
Right.
And so like the example you brought up, essentially what ends up happening is that we teach our nervous system how to have a survival response because of a lack of resourcefulness. And we can actually rise above that. We can do so much better, but what we need is a more energy efficient nervous system. And when your nervous system is in a state of overwhelm, we use a lot more survival, panicky responses. When our system is really energized and is essentially optimized and efficient, we're able to actually have a lot more clarity, a lot more bandwidth. We can see things, have a much more strong emotional conversation.
Right.
And so when people come in and they've got their nervous system in an overwhelmed state, it's not about getting them to feel better. It really comes from helping them to connect deeply to what's happening inside.
And that does not come always easily. But that's part of them having to kind of understand the path you're going to take them on, because they have to acknowledge whatever that root cause is when they get to it.
If you don't get to that root cause, you're really not healing. You can regulate a nervous system without really getting to what's causing it,
Right.
and it'll just come back.
But that also means that what you do is completely customized to each patient. There is no set protocol, standard protocol.
That's a
Is
very
that
good,
right?
yes, very true. Yeah.
You also, I know we live in a time where time is important and all of us are busy, but you don't try to pretend that this happens quickly.
That's right. Yeah, I wish there was an easy route, but what we're looking at is we're teaching the nervous system how to relate to life in a different way. And anything sustainable in the nervous system cannot be changed overnight. It really takes a gradual process. So when somebody comes in, for instance, when they lay down on my table, I'm actually looking first primarily at how that tension is reflected in the spine. I'm a chiropractor first. So when I see that, what we're doing is we're making a gentle contact that hooks the brain up, and then the brain can resolve that tension and unwind it in the spine, which touches the whole experience, like we mentioned earlier, the emotion and the perception in the mind. It's the whole tone of the body that shifts. Now here's the thing, is when somebody goes off into the world, they experience stress the same way they do, and they employ the strategies they've always known.
Right.
And so you need to come back in so that we can get your system to reset again and to really start to let that tone go. And after we do that for a minute, your body learns and you learn how to engage different strategies in a way that does not trigger your survival responses, that does not do this.
Right, it's like new muscle memory, kind of.
It's just like going to the gym when you really think about it.
So lucky for us, this is kind of the first foray of conversations with him. We knew it was going to be a little bit deep, and it's a little bit different than what you hear typically when we're talking about just pain in your spine, because it's usually so much more than that. So you're going to come back on the show in a few weeks. At some point we'll have a chance to hear from one of his patients who's experienced this transformation, him or herself. But here's how you can get in touch with him. Dr. Dave Aitken. It's TonalSpine Chiropractic over on Woodland Avenue. It's TonalSpine.com. Go on their website. It's a great one. You can read for yourself about his story, the different things that they do. 498-3330 is what will get you into the office to make that appointment, and you'll have a chance just to see for yourself that it's really about healing you, not just about treating you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.